up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football channel. And in today's video, I'm going to give you my thoughts on today's game for the Philadelphia Eagles, tying 23-23 with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now I'm going to get right into it. It was an interesting game. Obviously, ties in the NFL are very rare right now. I'm happy we didn't lose the game because at times it did look like the Eagles were going to lose. But still, I'm not too happy because obviously we didn't win. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this game. I think the team looked better overall, but there are still a lot of things that need to be worked on before this team can actually, contend again. But I'm going to get right into it, starting with some things that I thought were really good today by the Eagles. And one of those things is Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was great last week, in my opinion, in his first game of the season. And in his second game of the season this week, I think he played really well again. I think Miles Sanders in a few years can be considered one of the better running backs in the NFL. He was pretty good as a rookie, and so far in his second season, he's really looking good. So I'm really happy with that, and I hope he can continue that throughout the season because I believe he had 95 rushing yards last week, and I think he had 96 this week, something like that. So, two good games to start his 2020 season. So I hope he can continue that because the Eagles. I think he would be really good for them. A solid running back that can do good for the future as well as right now. Another great thing I saw today was Greg Ward Jr. Ward Jr. was great. He had over 70 receiving yards and the only receiving touchdown of the day. Ward was picked up off the practice squad, I believe, last year after the Eagles had so many injuries at the wide receiver, and he was surprisingly good last year, and he was good this year as well. I don't think he's an elite receiver at all. I still think that there are a lot of better receivers in the NFL. Don't think he's the best receiver on this team even, but he played really well, and I'm starting to, like him more as a player, and I think, he can actually become a reliable receiver on this team, especially now that we're having wide receiver injuries again. Jalen Reagor didn't play today. Deshaun Jackson went out early. Alshon Jeffrey didn't play today either. So Greg Ward Jr. may have to have another, big role with this Eagles team, and I'm fine with that because he's actually a pretty good receiver. Another pro he had was Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz had 70 receiving yards today, and he made some big plays in overtime. There was a play, a big reception by him, a big play to get the Eagles in field goal range. There were some penalties after that took him out of field goal range, but just that play, I think it was a really, really good play by Ertz, getting in the right position to make that catch. I think he made a lot of solid plays today. Ertz, I think, is the third best tight end in the NFL, in my opinion, behind only George Kittle and Travis Kelce. I think Ertz is a really good tight end. I think he had a solid day today. I think he was pretty good today, and I hope we can keep going like that. Looking over to the defensive line, the defensive line was great today. 6.5 sacks for the defensive line, and also Jalen Mills had another 1.5 sacks. So 8 sacks combined for the Eagles today. And I know that the Bengals don't have the best offensive line, but still I'm happy with that, considering we were only able to get 1 sack last week against the LA Rams. Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat were all great today. Malik Jackson had half a sack, I believe, he had 1 sack as well. So it was an impressive performance by the defensive line. I'm really happy with that because, I hope that can be something we build on. I think our defensive line hasn't been incredible, but if it's getting better, I think that's a good sign, and I think it can make teams harder to move the ball on the Eagles. And then moving on to things that were okay today, I have the offensive line. The offensive line was great last week, in my opinion. Didn't allow a single sack against a very good Rams team. Very good Rams defensive line. This week they allowed 3 sacks. I still think the Bengals have a pretty good defensive line overall. And I think it was, fine that they conceded a few sacks, but I think maybe 3 sacks is a bit too much. Obviously, 3 sacks isn't a lot. It's not the 8 that we conceded against the football team a few weeks ago. So I think 3 sacks is fine. I think, if we can keep it at 2 or 3 sacks a game, we should be able to, hopefully get some more wins because we haven't been able to do that yet this season. But that was one of the things I think was better about this game that hasn't looked as good earlier in the season. Well, the offensive line looked good last week, but 2 weeks ago didn't look great. This week it looked okay, but I think it looked good enough, and I'm hoping it can continue to look like that for the rest of the season. Now, moving on to the cons. of today's game. I went through the pros. Now let's go to the cons. And the first one I have is Carson Wentz. Now, I don't think Carson Wentz was completely terrible today. I actually liked Carson Wentz at times. I think he made a few really, really good plays. The game-tying touchdown run, I think that was a fantastic play by Carson Wentz. And the throw to Zach Ertz, I was talking about Zach Ertz' catch earlier. That throw was incredible by Carson Wentz to set them up in field goal range. Obviously, then the penalties took them out. But that was a fantastic throw by Carson Wentz, which, that's getting rare because he is not making those throws anymore like he used to. But Carson Wentz threw another 2 interceptions today. He's thrown 6 in 3 games this season after he threw 3 interceptions or 7 interceptions for each of the past 3 years. So that's not good at all. He threw 7 interceptions in 2017, 7 interceptions in 2018, 7 interceptions in 2019, and so far in 2020 he's thrown 6 interceptions. That's not good. And he's obviously going to throw more interceptions than he normally does. But I'm hoping he can limit that because I think that's a big reason why we lost this game and why we lost last week's game and the week before. Some of the games earlier, I can't really put the blame on him because I don't think the throws were terrible. But this week, it just wasn't very good, the throws, the interceptions. He made a lot of mistakes. So he needs to limit on the turnovers. If he can do that, I think the Eagles have a good chance of winning a few more games. Next up, the pass defense. Pass defense wasn't great today. They conceded 312 pass yards. But before I talk about the pass defense, I just want to say Joe Burrow was incredible today. And Joe Burrow is just an incredible quarterback. I really liked Burrow at LSU. I really like him as a player. And I expected Burrow to be good, but he has played so much better than I expected him to. I mean, he's been incredible. I believe he had over 300 pass yards and 3 touchdowns. Last week he had over 300 pass yards and 2 touchdowns. This week, 5 touchdown passes already. He's looking really good, so I'm excited to see what else he can do. But back to the Eagles. Pass defense wasn't great today. I think they had a few good moments. But Jalen Mills was better as, a rusher, getting 1.5 sacks than he was really as, as a safety or cornerback. So, I think the pass defense needs to get better. I didn't like it too much last week either. And I think that can get better, but there were a few plays. Actually, there was one play that I think was fantastic by the pass defense. Nickell Roby-Coleman made a really, really good play in overtime to stop a big play for the Bengals. It was a great throw by Burrow, but Nickell Roby-Coleman was able to knock it out of the hands. I forget which player, but it was a great play by him. And I think there are some good players on this pass defense, and I think they can make some good moments. But still, there needs to be a lot more that I need to see before I can really consider this pass defense to be a really, really good pass defense. And then the final thing is penalties. Penalties cost us this game, to be honest. First of all, Eagles, on their second drive of overtime, Carson Wentz has that great throw to Zach Ertz who gets them in a field goal range. First, there's a 5-yard penalty, which they're able to get 5 yards back, get back in field goal range. And then there's another penalty that forces them, I believe there's a holding call that forces them out of field goal range. They aren't able to convert, and they punt it. The Eagles are able to make an incredible stop, get the ball back with just under 2 minutes left, get it down into field goal range, set up a 59-yard field goal, which I think Jake Elliott could have made from there, honestly, because he made from, I believe, 57 or something earlier in the game. I think it was 54, actually. But I think he could have made from there. And then it was a false start penalty, which caused it to go back 5 yards, which would make it a 64-yard field goal, and the Eagles decided to punt instead. Now, I'm not sure I agree with the call to punt it, but I understand why they punted it. I think Elliott could have made a 64-yard field goal, and I know that would be the record, but Elliott has a good leg. The really big question about that is, would he have been accurate enough? Because I think he definitely had the leg talent. It's just, would he be accurate enough to get that? But I definitely understand why they didn't kick a field goal, because if they had kicked a field goal and missed it, which was a big chance since it was a 64-yarder, the Bengals would have had incredible field position, and even with like 20 seconds left, they would have been able to score a field goal or a touchdown to win the game. So I understand why they didn't kick the field goal, but I think maybe they should have. But just the penalties, that really cost us this game, and it's really unfortunate that those penalties had to happen at the exact times that, we really didn't want that to happen. So obviously you never want penalties, but the penalties today for the Eagles happened potentially at the worst time possible. But overall, I think the team looked a lot better than it has the past weeks. They were playing the Bengals, who weren't the best team, but I think there are some things that can be built on here, hopefully improve this season. The defense looked better overall. I mean, the pass defense, I didn't like it as much, but the defensive line looked great, and the pass defense had its moments today. So hopefully that can be good this season. And then the final thing is Wentz had a few good moments today. Like I talked about earlier, the game-time touchdown run, the throw to Ertz. He had a few other moments. Obviously, he did make a lot of mistakes, but hopefully he can get back to his self of last year in 2018 and, of course, that incredible 2017 season. But, yeah, these are my thoughts on the Eagles tying with the Bengals. It's very interesting that we tied. I was hoping it would be a win, obviously, but it was a tie. But I think I will take a tie. At least it wasn't a loss. But these were my thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles tying with Cincinnati Bengals 23-23. What are your guys' thoughts? Tell me in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe for more NFL and college football content. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.